Hi everyone! I've been making bento boxes for my husband for almost 5 years now. So today I thought I'd show you 3 of the bento boxes I made this week and also some tips and tricks I've been learning over the past few years. Whether you're making bento boxes or lunches for your husband, your family, or even yourself, I hope this video is a little bit of inspiration for you. Let's get started. The bento boxes I saw online look so beautiful and elaborate. Before I got married, I remember wondering, will my Japanese husband be happy with the ones I make for him? I read countless bento recipe books and tried so many different ideas. When we first got married, I remember waking up at 4:30 every morning and spending at least 30 minutes making his lunch. Looking back, I might have been trying just a little too hard, and it turns out my husband thought so too. After a while, my husband asked me, "Why do you wake up so early just to make my bento?" And I replied, "Because that's what I'm supposed to do. Don't you like the lunches?" He said the lunches are great, but not at the expense of the stress, the early mornings, and all the extra dishes you have to wash afterwards. That conversation really made me stop and think, am I putting too much pressure on myself? He went on to explain that he was completely happy with simpler bento boxes. He'd rather I slept a little longer, and he even suggested making them the night before. I was shocked. A bento box? Made the day before? Don't the best wives make them fresh every morning? Well, it's been 4 years since we had that conversation, and my bento boxes look quite different now. And honestly, I think they're even better. These days, I have a very simple formula: a protein, an egg, and a vegetable. I cook almost everything in one small rectangular pan, which means less washing up, and yes, I usually make the bento the night before. I know, shocking, right? Making bento boxes has actually taught me something about myself. I've realized I'm very good at putting pressure on myself, even when no one around me is asking me to. What my husband appreciated wasn't an elaborate lunch. It was simply knowing I'd lovingly prepared one for him each day. On this particular day, I made a simple tamagoyaki seasoned with salt and a little sugar. Then I quickly cooked some broccoli before using the same pan to cook pork belly with soy sauce, mirin, and sake to create a teriyaki style flavor. Once everything was ready, I packed it into the bento box. Nothing elaborate, just a few simple ingredients packed with care. 4 years later, my husband still happily takes lunches like this to work every day, and I think that's what bento boxes are really about. Sometimes, simplicity really is better. And guess what? Since simplifying my bento boxes, my husband has never once complained that they're too simple. These days, my bento routine looks very different. I make 2 lunches, one for my husband and one for myself. I have a 2-year-old running around, and I'm also 6 months pregnant, so every day looks a little different. Sometimes I quickly put a bento together while I'm making dinner. Sometimes I use leftovers or even frozen vegetables. Other times, like this evening, I make it after my little one has gone to bed. Bento making has simply adapted to the season of life, and somehow I find it even more enjoyable. A couple of practical changes have made the whole process much easier. First, as I mentioned earlier, I use this one small rectangular pan for almost everything. It keeps the washing up to a minimum, and in a strange way, limiting my options has actually made cooking easier. Secondly, I intentionally use a round bento box. Over the years, I found that square and rectangular boxes are usually harder to pack beautifully because the corners are difficult to fill. I also like using a slightly smaller bento box than you might think you'd need. Bentos always look their best when they're packed nice and full, without large gaps between the ingredients. It may look like a small lunch on camera, but once it's filled with rice and all the different components, it's surprisingly satisfying. On this day, I used salmon as my protein, scrambled eggs, and some frozen spinach seasoned simply with soy sauce. Here in Japan, there's a popular bento called sanshokudon, which literally means 3-color rice ball. Traditionally, it's made with seasoned minced meat, scrambled eggs, and green vegetables, but I love using the same simple idea as inspiration. A protein, an egg, and something green can become so many different lunches depending on what you already have at home. Some people have asked whether I meal plan my bento boxes, and the answer is generally no. I do plan our family dinners each week, but when it comes to bentos, I honestly just work with whatever I have on hand. That being said, there are a few staples I always keep in my fridge and pantry that make putting them together much easier. If you'd like to see that, let me know. I think it could make a fun video in the future. Each week, I usually buy whatever vegetables are in season, make sure I have plenty of eggs, and then work with whatever meat and leftovers I already have in the fridge and freezer. On this particular day, I had one lonely pickled plum left in the fridge, so I chopped it up and mixed it through some chicken for a salty, tangy flavor. I added some seaweed flakes to my tamagoyaki just for a little bit of fun, and I used up a carrot that had definitely seen better days. I think that's one of the things I enjoy most about making bento boxes. Dinner is usually planned, but bentos are where I get to be a little creative. If you're just starting to make bentos though, and you're struggling to come up with ideas, don't worry, I was exactly the same. I spent plenty of time looking through bento recipe books before I reached the point where I felt comfortable improvising with whatever I had at home. So if recipe books, Pinterest, or YouTube videos help you get started, use whatever inspires you. Maybe one day I'll even put together a simple recipe book of my own, if you think that would be helpful. Looking back, my bento journey has come a long way. I smile when I think about waking up before dawn, trying hard to impress my husband with a different picture-perfect lunch every day. The older I get, the more I realize that simplicity is often what helps us most. There is certainly beauty in the unique and unexpected, but there's also a quiet beauty in the simple. I found that the more I simplify different areas of my life, such as my finances, my schedule, my work, and even my bento making, the more space I have for the things that matter most. I hope this video gave you a little inspiration, a few practical ideas, or simply some encouragement. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next week.